Ed Davey, thanks for talking to me. Sounds like there's a potential for a youth mobility scheme to be agreed. For you, would that be a first step towards return to freedom of movement?
Well, Liberal Democrats have always argued for a youth mobility scheme. We think it's really important to rebuild the trust between the UK and Europe. The Conservatives badly broke that, and it's damaged our economy, it's damaged our ability to work with others on our security of our country. So we absolutely need to rebuild that relationship, and I think this is the first start. It will be very welcome.
All right, there's a million young adults out of work in the UK at the moment. How would you solve that?
I think the young adult unemployment is outrageous. It's so unfair. We need to make sure young people can get into work, because it's about not just the immediate their futures, but their lifelong futures. If people don't get the chance to work early on, it often means that they never get into the workforce. So the government needs to do far more. There are a whole range of issues they need to do to help people. Sometimes it's health issues, mental health issues, for example, where people need that support so they can get into work. Sometimes it's skills, and they need to be able to get those skills either at a local college or a local school.
There's been more Russian strikes in Ukraine overnight, but Donald Trump has said that Zelensky is prolonging the war. Keir Starmer's meeting European leaders today. Is it time for the Prime Minister to rebuke Donald Trump? And if he does that not mean the coalition of the willing is useless?
I think what President Trump has said about Zelensky in Ukraine is outrageous. And I think we should say that. When he's basically saying black is white and white is black, he's not telling the truth. You have to call the truth out. Let's remember that President Putin caused this war. He's murdered thousands of innocent Ukrainian civilians. He's committed, and his force committed, appalling war crimes. And for the President of the United States not to admit that against all the evidence is quite wrong, and the British Prime Minister should say so.
You are no big fan of Donald Trump, but he is going to be coming to the UK for a state visit. Do you think he should be allowed to speak in Parliament?
I think it would be very unwise of the government to agree to that, because there's an awful lot of people, not just in Liberal Democrats, although we have led the opposition to Donald Trump, but in other parties who feel he's undermining Britain's defence, Britain's security, Britain's economy, and they want to speak up for their constituents. Certainly I do, and Liberal Democrats do, and I'm afraid he would get quite a hostile reception were he to be allowed to speak in Parliament.
You've announced not a very liberal policy today. You want to ban people from being able to play loud music on public transport. Is that not an infringement on civil liberties, and would it not be a waste of police time?
We've been listening to people during the election, and they've been saying one of the things that's really irritating them is antisocial behaviour, and particularly antisocial behaviour on buses and trains, where people are not using headphones like the vast majority of us do, but subjecting all their fellow passengers to very loud noise from their music, from their videos. And we're saying there are some bylaws on trains already to tackle this. They should be wider and more universal for buses as well, and more strictly enforced. I think it's about the freedom of people to be able to travel in quiet, so they can not be disturbed by their neighbour.
How could this be enforced, though? It feels like police are struggling to deal with the amount of crimes that are happening at the moment.
Well, first of all, there needs to be a public awareness campaign, because I think some people probably aren't aware that they shouldn't be doing this, and that also that it is illegal, and aren't aware that they could be fined. And I think it would also enable ticket inspectors and others to feel more emboldened to step in, and that's what they should do. At
the general election campaign, you announced that you would campaign to legalise cannabis. It feels at the moment that the UK is running out of cash. This would potentially be a good way to raise some taxes. Is it not now time to start campaigning for that?
Well, it's not our priority at the moment. We've got to sort out the health service is our top priority. In the general election, that was what we put centre and forward, was investing in health and care. With people waiting far too long to see a GP, they can't get an NHS dentist. Social care system is an absolute crisis. We have to tackle those priorities, and that's what we're leading our campaigns on.
There's also been talk about reclassifying ketamine, because there's been a huge increase in ketamine deaths. A few years ago there was calls to legalise it because it can help with depression. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, on these sorts of issues you have to listen to the experts. There is a special advisory committee who look at the issues of these of drugs. There is a worry about the increase in the use of ketamine, and it's having big impacts on people's health, not only their ability to concentrate, but even impacting their bladder. And some people are really having problems controlling themselves as a result of the side effects of ketamine. So I would want to hear the experts for you about what classification. There's certainly an argument that they need to look at about whether it should be classified from B to A.
There's been lots of talk lately about Conservatives and Reform forming a coalition to get into power. Would you consider a coalition with Labour to keep them out of power?
I'm considering making sure we win more Liberal Democrats. We've got local elections on May the 1st in many parts of England, and it's the Liberal Democrats who are the ones competing against the Conservatives. We want to remove the Conservatives. We had our best results for the Liberal Democrats last July, best for over 100 years. So we feel the momentum's behind us. The Conservatives and Reform, clearly they share a bit in common. Conservatives seem to want to cuddle up to Reform, and I think we reject their extreme right-wing policies. They want to divide people. I don't think it speaks for young people. I don't speak for anyone, frankly. And I think if people look at the Liberal Democrats, they see people who work in their communities, who can rebuild the trust that so many people have lost in our politics. And I hope, therefore, many people who are maybe thinking of voting Reform will actually come and back their local Liberal Democrat.
Despite what you've just said, Nigel Farage thinks he can become Prime Minister. Do you think you could become Prime Minister?
Well, unlike Nigel Farage, who wants to claim the earth, I'm going to focus on what's in front of me, and I want to focus on the concerns of ordinary people. And when I speak to people, there's a range of things that matter. We've talked about our new policy announced today of the headphone dodgers, people who are causing antisocial problems on buses and trains. That's come from people. We want to talk about health and care, as I've mentioned. We want to talk about the cost of living. People are really struggling still with rents and mortgages and food and energy bills. And we want to talk about environmental issues. It's really key to Liberal Democrats, and that's why we've led the campaign on the appalling sewage being dumped in our rivers and our seas. So we're going to campaign on those issues to try to win people support at the elections. We're not going to engage in the divisive politics of Nigel Farage, who claims a lot but delivers nothing.
If you did get to become Prime Minister, what would be the first thing you'd change?
I'm going to focus on the issues ahead of me now. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. We've got local elections in many parts of England in May. Next year we've got elections in Scotland or Wales and other parts of England. And I want to make sure more people are represented by Liberal Democrat MPs and Liberal Democrat councillors. And we'll put forward our policies. Clearly, health and care have been the top of what we've been campaigning about. So someone who's been a carer all my life, to look after my mum, then my grandmother, now my disabled son, I see issues around supporting family carers is really, really important. And I think the knock-on impact to social care and the health service and the economy is so big, and people haven't focused on that. So I'm going to be talking a lot about that and campaigning on that, because I think that needs to change very significantly.
Okay, last question. You seem like the nicest man in politics, but what is your biggest weakness?
A chocolate. I've been making chocolate today, and I tell you what, I could be eating it all day. It was absolutely gorgeous. So you want to come here to the chocolate shed, come and bring your family or bring your workmates and have a great day making chocolate at the chocolate shed here in Warwickshire.